So lead and follow is the concept of, as movement happens, there is going to be one part that starts the motion. Now, this does not mean that it is everything drags from that point. And like if my head moves, everything is just kind of dragging from there. It just means that not everything moves at the exact same time. There's going to be something that starts the motion, that starts moving first. So, for example, let's say I'm going to do a head turn, and I'm going to look over this way. And we're just going to focus on the head and the body. That's it. Head, body. If I'm doing a robotic head turn, it's just going to be whoop, like that. See how I just spin? I'm literally just rotating my chair. Everything moves together. That's not interesting. Instead, we can change how the character moves by thinking of what's going to lead and follow. If the head leads, I'm looking over here. Head starts moving. My body's staying still. Head starts moving. And then the body follows. Now, how much do you lead? How much do you follow? It depends on the shot. I can turn my head here and then my body turns. Or I can just turn my head a little bit and then the rest goes through. That the amount that it leads and follows is really subjective. That's where you have to study your reference. But you can push that. You could have it so the body leads. So I'm looking over here. My body starts turning and then my head goes. So you can change that up right through there. So body starts to move, then the head. Like that. When you go into the different body parts, you can even push that. So for my head, as it starts moving, let's say my head is leading the action. Well, within my head, is my chin leading or is my forehead that's leading? Am I doing this where my chin starts to move further than my forehead? Or am I doing this where my forehead is leading and then I turn? So you can break it down more and more and more. And really it just means what is starting the motion, and then everything else will follow afterwards. It will happen afterwards. So for example, if I'm going to, we'll do a punch example because that's just a very visual one. If I'm going to throw a punch, I'm over here. I'm going to go over there and then punch forward. So from pose A, we're here. Pose B, we're over here. How does my body go through there? Well, the first thing that moves is my shoulder. At least when I'm doing this right here. My shoulder, let's bring the mic a little closer. Shoulder starts to lead right here. The clavicle pulls back, then the elbow, then the chest. So it's that, then the chest comes out. So we're getting 1, 2, 3. Like that. Now, as I punch forward, it's the chest that now leads. So as I punch forward, the chest leads the action. It goes back. The elbow is countering that motion by going backwards slightly, but the chest is still the leading force. It's the one that starts the motion, and then everything else drags from there. So it's really paying attention to how things are starting to move and how they move in relation to each other. That's the big thing. So hopefully that makes sense. It's not drag, and it's not follow through. So follow through in animation is like overlapping action. It's not that. Lead and follow is just one thing starts, other things happen afterwards. So, yeah. Definitely let me know if you have any other questions on that. See, it just came from Micro Center in Denver, and there was 4 or 5 RTX. Oh, okay. I might have to go to Denver. And Autokey, hey, how's it going? It has been a while. Hope you're doing well. Hello. Let's see. Nice. Where were you working on? I still can't say. Lost Ollie. Hey, Tara. I can't remember if you mentioned that or not. That's awesome. That's really cool. Congrats. If I make 2 really good poses in stepped, how do I add lead and follow without changing the poses and the time? So if you make 2 really good poses in step mode, the way you're going to push the lead and follow without changing the timing and the poses is one, the breakdowns. That's usually where you add the lead and follow. That's where you're really going to push what starts to move, what happens after. I'm trying to think if I have a demo that I can show with this. Yeah, I can show a quick demo here afterwards. So it's going to be mostly in the breakdowns. If you have a key pose, so you go from one frame to another, and you want to put a key pose in the middle, it's not quite a breakdown, it's still technically a key. You're just going to be pushing how much certain things are leading versus another. So let's see if I can show this and draw this out visually in a way that makes sense. Okay. So let's say you have a character. Actually, we're going to do an animation here. Okay. And then just have to get my timeline. I haven't done any animation in this for so long. I need to do it more often. Okay. Cool. And then we're going to do, let's say, 3 keys here. Okay. So frame 1, we'll have a character, and they're just going to be standing something like this. Just a simple kind of standing pose here. Let's not worry about the arms. We're just going to do the main body. Okay. Now, let's think of another pose. What could they be doing? What would be an interesting pose for them to get into? Let's see. I'm trying to think of something where the motion is going to be very clear. Maybe we could push a kind of lean to the side and like, let's see if he's twisting around. Which way would the body curl? Kind of want a reversal. Crouching? Yeah, let's go crouching. That should be clear enough. So the character is going to be down here. The body's going to be kind of scrunched in. And they're squatting down here. Maybe looking at something on the ground. We see like a little cat right here. There we go. A little cat. There we go. So he's squatting down to go pet a cat, because that's the best thing to squat down for. Now, as they're going to go down, how are they going to start going down? So we've got these 2 poses. Let's say, perfect, great. There's not really a lead and follow in these 2 poses because they're just 2 separate poses. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't add drag within a pose and whatnot. That's a whole other concept. That it's tied in, but another concept. But we need to start breaking this down, and we want to think of that lead and follow. So the Maya thing that would happen here is if we just put this into Maya and let it animate, the pose it would give us would be everything halfway. So the head would be halfway between these 2 points. The angle of the head would be halfway. So here it's straight, here it's forward here. So this would be halfway between that. The neck would be halfway between. The hips, if we think of there, they would be halfway between. Everything is just halfway between. So it's going to be really rough kind of drawing, but so you get a pose like this. Let's clean that up here. So this would be the pose that Maya gives us by default, or the breakdown it would give us. It's just this very boring, everything just part way through. That's not interesting. Let's see. If always, I remember one of my 2D instructors in college taught me that if you can make yourself laugh while you're drawing, then you're doing it right. This is actually tangent. This is what happens when you're tired. Tangents are too easy to go to. One of the things that helped me the most in being okay with how I draw, because I'm not the best artist. It's taken me many years to be able to get like these very rough drawings. And for a long time, I was super self-conscious about everything. Like, I can't draw faces correctly. I can't draw things correctly. Like my cat is a little squiggle here. What really helped me kind of get over that and just enjoy it is laugh at it. Laugh at how silly this cat is. It's like all messed up and janky, and the toes are all just like wherever. It's silly. It doesn't have to be perfect. It gets the idea across, hopefully, and you just laugh at it. And not laugh at it in the sense of, it sucks. It's just like, look how silly it is. It's funny. I'm not trying to take it seriously now. No, this has to be a work of art. It's got to be perfect. It takes a little bit, but it honestly helped me a lot in just being more confident and just like, okay, I need to draw some. Look how silly it is. Okay, keep going. So yeah, it's a little bit of a weird thing, but it honestly does help quite a bit. So going back to the demo here, this is the pose that Maya would give us. This has no lead and follow. Essentially, everything is moving at the same time. Head goes down, hips go down, chest starts to rotate. Everything is happening at the exact same time. That is not good. What we want to do is push the lead and follow. What's going to start moving first? What's going to happen? Another way to think about it is what's going to happen first. So the character is standing there, and then maybe they hear a little, a little cat right at their feet. What are they going to do? Are they going to just go and straight down, or are they going to, what's this? And you're going to have this like look down first. So they're just standing there, huh? And as I'm doing that, as I'm looking down, the thing that's happening is my body actually goes the other way. So my head tilts and my body goes back slightly. So this is thinking of how your breakdowns will work. Now, this all depends on what you're doing, what your shot's going to be like, but I'm doing this. So that first lead and follow is not going to be everything coming down at once. It's going to be the head tilting down here as the body. So this is the big motion, and then the body might have just a slight lean back right here. And my head is shrinking. I'm not good at proportions. But thankfully, that's what the scale tool is for. This is actually something that is super important, especially when you're doing digital drawing. Don't be afraid of moving things around and adjusting like this. It's a big part of drawing. Any major artist I see, they do this all the time. I tend to try and get it perfect all the time, which is a stupid habit to get into. Don't be afraid of just using the tools you have. So, as the character looks down, we get this little bit of motion backwards in the body as the head moves forward. So you could technically say that, oh, but the chest is moving at the same time. No, technically the head's going to start moving. It's going to be the first thing that moves, but I want to show this more visually. So I'm going to bring the head lower. And by this point, the body is going to react. And the software here, this is Clip Studio Paint, which is a great drawing software and animations. It has rudimentary animation, but it's very good. EX. Very good program. I love this program. I do have Photoshop, but this one, it just feels good to draw in. And they have sales on like every few months. You could get the program for like 50% off. So just wait for a sale and then you can get it. It's really nice. So right here, the head leads the action. It's moving down. Okay. Well, let's retime this a little bit and we'll keep adding more breakdowns. So head leads, the character looks, oh, now they're going to start bending down. What's going to happen first? Well, once they get here and they kind of, aw, it's a cute cat. The next thing that's going to lead from this point is not the head, because the head pretty much reached its maximum. He's not going to start tilting his head and start doing this into his neck here. No, he's tilted. Now, the next motion is him crouching down. It's two separate motions, not one motion. That motion will lead with the hips, because as we start to lean forward, our hips have to go back to balance ourselves out. And if he's going to crouch down, that's going to be the first thing. The butt is going to stick out first in order to start balancing the character right away. So the leading force now is going to be the hips going out this way, like that. So instead of just the hips going in a straight line here, the hips are going to go back and maybe a little bit at an angle. So a little bit more this way. So not down, but like down at an angle. The body is going to drag here. It's going to go a little forward, but just a little bit, as the butt is the main thing that moves. The head is pretty much going to stay where it is. Looking at the cat. And then the feet and the legs just kind of react. So you're going to get this kind of reaction here. So it starts to go back. I could exaggerate this quite a bit more, so we could push that butt even further back. Okay, so the butt starts to come down. Now it's going to arc back a little bit. So I'm thinking of the arc, and I'm also thinking of my spacing. So this is, the butt is leading, it's bringing the force down. I don't want this to be, if the hip is here and then it goes here, I'm not going to just put it right in the center. That's going to be boring. This is where we start thinking of our spacing. How is it going to ease down? Is it going to drop down really quick? Is he going to overshoot? Is he like going, hey cat, and just like really just dropping down? Is he being careful and cautious? How does this happen? So for this, let's push the arc around here. So he goes out in this way, but also let's ease that out a little bit. So it's going to favor the top pose just a little bit more here. As this is still going back, now the body is going to start leaning and kind of bending here. So I'm thinking of where the spine was here, and how can I break this down in a nice simple way? So the body's going to start to lean forward, and I could keep it kind of stiff here for now, or I could have it start to bend. This is up to me. Like, this is not one is better than the other. It really just depends on how the character is going to start bending over. You can bend at your hips, or you can bend with your spine. So I can start to do this, but this is a lot right now. We're getting that big hip motion, and his body is just kind of moving right down. So maybe I'll simplify that just a little bit. Keep the head a little higher up here. The head starts to come down. Let's just focus on the body for now. As the hips come down, let's ease the hips in here. So they ease in. And would this be right in the middle of the two key poses or close to one another? Honestly, it's up to you. It's how you want to break things down. I break things down in terms of timing. So let's say you have frame 1 here and then frame 13 here. Those are your 2 key poses right there. So key pose, key pose. The way I would break this down is I would put a key right in the middle. So this would be frame 7. This would be my main breakdown. I put a key there. I put my first breakdown there. And I try to think, okay, in this amount of time, how much is it going to move? And then I keep breaking it down in halves. So then it would be breaking this down here. This would be frame 4. Or, sorry. Frame. Yeah. That's right. Is it? My brain is not working. So we've got 6 frames there. Yeah. So actually I would probably do 2 breakdowns here. Doot, doot. And then this would be frame 3 and 5. Like that. So I would start with the main middle breakdown and then break it down even more. I like to keep things on 2s or 3s, like even breakdowns. Maybe if I don't need too many keys here, I would just put this to frame 10. So it's 3, 3, 2, 2, 2. That's a whole other thing. And this is just the way I like to do it. I like to break things down evenly, if as much as I can. Okay. So the hip is coming down. I think I could push it just a little further back here. Push that arc. Now, as this happens, the body is going to start moving pretty quick. So we've got the arc of the body here. It's going down. Let's think of the neck. I want the arc of the neck to go this way. So it's going to go forward here. And the body is still going to maybe not be easing in too much here. It could still be favoring a little bit higher here. So it's still up there. The head, though, might start to lead. Now what I mean by lead is you can see the spacing of the head. It's starting to ease in right there. I go quick. So as he's bending, we get that kind of the head right there. So it's actually the hip is leading. As the hip slows down, now the head is catching up and it starts to lead the action. The lead can change. As one thing starts to slow down, something else will start to pick up in its place. It's not always the case, but we can do that. So the head comes through right here. And then let's add one more. Now the hips are maybe going to overshoot a little bit, so they go a little too far down. And the body is still, let's see. I think my body got a little long here. I'm not great at drawing consistent proportions. A little long and a little wide. Now the body can maybe ease in right here, and this is where we get that big bend in the body. And the head is easing into a stop here. So you get something like that. So let's actually get the legs in here now. So the knees are going to start to go forward here. This knee needs to go forward a little bit more. And then something like this. Okay, so let's see how it looks without the onion skinning. So now we get something like that. So you can see how we feel the head lead. Whoop, it comes down. And then the hips push back. And then pull everything else with it. So instead of just this slow, everything moves at the same time, we get this nice breakup of action. So that's lead and follow. It's trying to think what's going to start moving. And when you put that in your breakdowns, it makes for dynamic breakdowns that are interesting to look at versus breakdowns that just slide across the screen. And it's just thinking, how are they going to move? What are the arcs I want? What's the spacing I want? It's putting all the principles into every single breakdown you put in. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Now, in terms of, but won't everything end on the same frame? So when you're doing this, this is where the breakdowns come in. The breakdowns are going to avoid the pose to pose, everything starting and stopping on the same frame. So if we look at our breakdown here, like you could say that, okay, let's say this is frame 1 here. And then we're going, just for the sake of argument, this is our frame 13 right there. So we've got our timing right there. Now, let me actually also, where is it? Here it is. I'm just going to take this, let's cut that and put it on a new layer so we can just keep it visible the whole time. Okay, so we've got that there. If we look at our pose, so frame 1 here, let's say our next pose right here, this is going to be frame 3, let's say. So that pose right here. But you'll notice that not everything is changing at the same time. Oh, and I'm drawing on the wrong layer here. Beep. I want to draw in there. Okay, so this is our frame 3. Well, does everything start moving? No, the hips, basically, aside from a little rotation in the chest, the hips and legs are not moving. So from frame 1 to 3, it's really just the head. From frame 3, and then let's say this is 5 here, the feet aren't moving. It's really just the hips. The body is countering the motion and staying in place. So in this movement from 1 to 5 so far, not everything has started at the exact same time. We're breaking things down so that certain things stay in place longer. I hope that makes sense. So like on 3, the hips haven't moved. We've made sure to keep them still. We're not letting Maya or the animation program start slipping them around. This is how you avoid that pose to pose feeling, by really pushing your breakdowns. Same thing when the character comes to a stop. If this is our last frame, frame 13, this would be frame 10 right here. Well, even here, by frame 7, the hips have pretty much stopped right there. They've stopped over here, and then the rest of this time is just the body continuing the motion. So you're using these breakdowns and you're really you're putting these keys in, but you're pushing the breakdowns and thinking, I've got to stop this early or start this early so that we create this offset. Yeah, it's the same, but on the other side. Exactly. So you break up the motion, and then you have certain motions end sooner than others. And that creates that nice, interesting, like, visual dynamic in there. Now, kind of a visual example of that in terms of, like, this applies to everything. The full body. You can also do this to the face. So this was, where is it? Apollo face test? Was this it? Yeah. So this was an animation face test we did on stream a while back. Is it going to open? There it is. So essentially just animating a few different facial expressions and then having the character go between them. And this is that exact same principle. So we've got, this was the first pass. We had 3 different face poses. So this was the very first, like, quick blocking pass. From there, we exaggerated and made the expressions a little bit more interesting. This is how I feel today. That first one, that's me right now. But you can see that we've got these 3 faces. Sure, each individual pose looks okay, but in between, everything is moving at the exact same time. Let's kind of go from the surprise to the disgusted here. If we look at this, on frame 48, everything starts moving. You can feel movement in the brows. You can feel movement in the eyelids. You can feel movement in the head. You can feel movement in the mouth. Everything is moving on the exact same frame. and then everything stops on the exact same frame. Right here on frame 63, everything stops moving. There's no motion. Every single thing hits that pose at the exact same time. That's the problem that we were seeing. Everything is just right in the middle, boring. So what we need to do is put those breakdowns in so that things... I just noticed that my mic peaked there. No, I don't want peaking mics. Yeah, it creates these just weird things. So let's go through here, and I'm gonna just tone down my mic. Hopefully that's better. If my mic is peaking, definitely let me know. I don't want to hurt people's ears. So this is, I think, the latest version. So if we look at this now, this is suddenly much more interesting. Why? Why is this more interesting than what it was before? Well, we're pushing that lead and follow. So as the face goes from the surprised here into the disgusted, we're leading with the brows. See how the brows are moving, but nothing else is really affected yet? Then as the brows come down, we see a little change in the eyes and a little change in the mouth, but the head hasn't started moving yet. We're just keeping it delayed, starting with certain things. Now, as it comes through, we're starting to feel the squish in the cheeks and the nose. So it's brows, eyes, mouth, cheek, and nose. As the face gets in here, now we start to feel the motion in the head. Now, the head motion could have happened much sooner, or it could happen much later. It's really just thinking of how much do you want to offset. I can have a facial expression that goes, ugh, and the head just moves right away, or it could go, ugh, no. And they're totally two separate motions. And anything in between. As animators, we have full control of that. We can do whatever we want. So, yeah, you can do that quite a bit. And as we go through, now as he comes to a stop, you'll notice that the head motion keeps going after everything else. The brow motion has stopped over here, and then the eyes open. So all the different facial parts are coming to a stop at different times. It's the same concept, just putting your breakdown and letting things settle before other things. And that concept of breakdowns, of thinking of what happens first, what's going to happen next, and what's going to stop moving first, that's where you get interesting dynamic animation. So, yeah, hopefully that makes sense. And it goes down to like the fine details. So where's my... I did a blink demo. Where is it? Trying to think where I put it. Blink, 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 blink. I probably put it in the wrong folder. Yeah, there it is. So I think this is the one. No, that's creepy. Is this it? Might be it. Okay, so this was a blink demo I did on stream a while back, and this was going... It's the same concept. It's whether we're doing a big full character move, a whole head facial expression, or just a blink, those same concepts apply all the way down. So let's actually look at, I think it's right here. Okay, yeah. So this blink is the typical blink that I'll see with new animators, or when you're first blocking in your shot. And it's just this isolated motion, just the eyelids going doot doot. That's not super interesting. It's nothing else is reacting. It's just this isolated motion, and it's very slow and even. Dip, dip. Not super interesting. The other type of blink I see is the very slow blink, like that. And especially if you add an offset, it's just not that interesting. But the other thing you'll notice is that both eyelids, top and bottom, start to move at the exact same time. Right there. So that connection, it's too perfect. They just kind of whoop, whoop. Not interesting. An interesting blink is more like this. See how it felt dynamic a little bit more? There's just kind of an offset. Not everything just happens at the same time or weirdly isolated. How did we do that? Well, we figured out what leads. So as the blink happens, the first thing that happens is the top lid leads the action. You see that moves quite a bit. It doesn't mean that the bottom lid doesn't move, but the top lid is the bigger motion. That's the leading force. It starts moving, going through. As it starts to moving, afterwards, the skin above it gets pulled. We're creating that sympathetic motion. So one thing leads and it's dragging, in this case, another part of the body. It's moving in arcs. This is something that most people don't realize when you're animating blinks. Blinks don't go up and down. So a normal blink, most people, if you look at the peak of the eye here, it just goes straight down, right there. Boop, boop. That's not super interesting. And our blinks don't work like that. Blinks move in at an angle. Because of the way the muscles work in the face, you have this point here in your eye, the corner. All the muscles pull into this point when you blink. So as you blink, you'll notice that the eye kind of pulls in this way. It's closing in there. The peak goes from here to here. And then it goes around this way as it comes back and into a loop. So you've got that diagonal motion to a blink. It's very subtle, but it's in there. Same thing with the lower lid. You can feel it pulling this way versus just going straight up and down. So it's the same concept, lead and follow. And then just adding anatomy in there. So I hope that helps. I hope that makes sense. I know we kind of went over all sorts of tangents and whatnot, but it's all interconnected from a big body motion all the way down to the smallest blink.